So did everybody go out and watch fireworks and play last night and have good food? No. You saved it for today for the rain. That's what you did. But the rain is good. My hair's doing all kinds of funny things. A couple weeks ago, I went back to Baltimore to see my family, and I feel like I'm there this morning because of the humidity. Okay, so, we ready? Yep. Freedom, July. Yesterday being Independence Day, declaring freedom from control of another country, claiming selfhood, and freedom of choice. Ernest Holmes wrote the Science of Mind book to retell the truth that man was created in freedom. In the introduction, he says that man was not put here with a consciousness of bondage or a consciousness of lack or anything to fear. The suffering of anyone within the human race is not God ordained. Man creates his own experience as he becomes individualized, and he has done this through free will and self-choice, consciously and unconsciously. The truth is that we have been created from that of complete freedom and the power to back up that freedom. I want to bring up a connection of freedom and happiness from a place we may not have thought of before. The quote that Reverend Marty had chosen for today was perfect. It's from the Peace Pilgrim. I certainly am a happy person. How could one know God and not be joyous? So, a couple weeks ago, I'm cleaning the kitchen, always kind of fun. And so I decided to listen to a TED Talk to help pass the time while I'm doing that. You all know TED Talks? Okay. So I find this title that's pretty catchy. How to Stop Screwing Yourself Over. I think we all do that every now and then. I thought, I might want to listen to that one. So I turned that one on, listened to it, and it was really good. And then when it was done, you get a list of other talks that come up from the same conference because they move around different areas. And there was another one that really caught my attention, How to Know Your Life Purpose in 5 Minutes. Well, I says to myself, I think we're in the right place, but let's listen to this and see what comes up. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I want to give credit where credit's due. I really am thankful to TED Talks for all the wonderful things that I learned from them, and I really was inspired to find freedom in both of from what I learned from both of these talks. And it touches freedom in all aspects. So, it is said that 1/3 of Americans feel dissatisfied with their lives. That's a lot of people. That's a whole lot of people. A percentage of those people don't know why they're unhappy. And another percentage of those people do know why they're unhappy, but they're afraid to ask one very important question. What do I want? So I ask you now, what do you want? Don't think about what someone else next to you may want. What do you want? And that's not always an easy question for people. So, somewhere in your thought and in your life and in your consciousness is a little flame, a little flicker of something that would be pretty serious and deep for you about what you really want. When you find what you want, it builds motivation in your life. But a lot of people won't pick what they want. There's a whole lot of reasons. I think fear, for me, fear was always a one of it, or self-doubting, didn't think I was worthy of really having what I wanted, or that I was even here to even find something that I wanted for me. But finding something that you want can be as simple as just wanting to be happy. Or it can be maybe to do a certain project. If you find that simple thing that could change your life, it could be something that just fits so well that when you wake up in the morning you go, wow, I love my life. I'm glad I'm awake today. How many of us wake up and say, I love my life? There's some hands. Good. I'm glad. So, and getting what you want can be kind of simple, actually, but not always easy. No matter what you want, if you go to the internet, you can find everything about what you might want for you. You can find all the information, all the steps, everything that you need to do to get yourself started, right? Just so much information is there. But here's the catch. No matter how much information and resources you have about it, whether it happens for you or not comes down to one word and one concept. It's the F-bomb. It's a 4-letter word that starts with the letter F, And the word is fine. How are you today? Fine. How's your project coming? Fine. That's all it is. How often do we use that word fine as an automatic or a remote response without even thinking about it? According to the dictionary, the definition of the word fine is that it's an adjective. It's used to describe something very good, excellent, refined, maybe good health, clear, bright weather, a small grain of fine sand, or something sharp like a fine edge. But is that really the best word to describe yourself? What if you said you used it in a very different way and that was like, I'm fine. I am so fine today. I'm fine. You could really play with that. That's a whole different energy. It's a whole different vibration, and it really depends on which way you want to go with the word, what's really coming from you in that moment. How are you today? Fine. How's your project coming? Fine. Even my shoulders kind of go, fine. Yeah. It seems to express only kind of a fair to middling kind of response or description of what you're feeling in the moment. Why wouldn't you choose to say, I'm really good today. My project is really coming along. It's doing great. That way you have an energy that's really forward moving. And it kind of grabs you, and it keeps you going, and it keeps more coming in. Here's a quote from Ernest Holmes. Life is an active, creative process. The minute its activity is diminished, a sort of stagnation sets in, and vitality is greatly reduced. Our ability to think is an activity of life within us. So it follows that when thought ceases to be constructively creative endeavor, there will also be a reduced experience of living. As long as we permit ourselves to consider any aspect of living a distasteful activity and desire to withdraw from it, we are only depriving ourselves of a fuller enjoyment of the things we do desire to experience. I want to tweak one of those sentences. As long as we permit ourselves to consider any aspect of living an automatic or remote activity, we are depriving ourselves of a fuller enjoyment of the things we desire to experience. When we are doing what we desire to experience, we experience freedom. What if using the word fine to describe ourselves or anything else is the only word we can find in the moment because we feel stuck? We may not even have other words or notions kind of moving around the top of your mind at the moment, but it comes out as such a mechanical term. It's politically correct, it's acceptable, no one's going to challenge you on it, we can be complacent, we don't have to make any adjustments in our lives. Not for that moment. Because maybe we wouldn't know what to do anyway. I'm fine. After a while, we convince ourselves we're okay with the way things are. Without getting what we want, we make up excuses, sometimes unconscious and sometimes not. I'm fine. And then we just leave it alone. In this TED Talk, it mentions that scientists predict the odds of any one person being born at any particular time, and those particular parents in that particular moment is 1 in 400 trillion chances. 1 to 400 trillion. You're not just fine. You're exceptional. You're pretty darn special. And the first person who tells me how many zeros are in that, I have a surprise for you. Okay. So there's an absolute reason why each person is here. There's an amazing particular reason why you're here. Each person is an individual spark of that creative light with your own aliveness. You bring together the spark of the divine mixed with your personality, your particulars in the physical in this moment. That's your specific individuation. And aren't you beautiful? That's not a question. That's an exclamation. Say it loud. Aren't you beautiful? Yes. Yes, there's a reason you're here. If you swam up through all of that or napped those odds, you're in it. So, being an individuation of spirit, we have ideas that move through us all the time. Each individual is an immaculate concept of divine mind. Isn't that a beautiful term? You're an immaculate concept of divine mind. It lives and moves and has its being in each one of us because each person is made of that substance. The creative process is alive in us, flowing, working every single moment with ideas, solutions, all kinds of stuff. Are you listening? It reminds us why we're here. It's the one mind that makes every idea. It's the same mind that makes the question. It's the same mind that provides every solution. It's available to us always. When we think we're separate from the infinite mind, we lose the connection to hear it. Remembering constantly that we are never separate keeps the listening active. And we are also individuals with our own filters, our choices, our egos, our conclusions, and possibly a little overwhelm. So what do we do with all the ideas and thoughts that flow through our head? Well, there's something called activation energy. It's the force it takes to move you from autopilot to change. A life example of that is when your alarm goes off in the morning and you get up out of bed. Well, you're first, before you get up, your alarm goes off, you're all kind of snuggly in your little bed and it feels kind of good in your little cocoon. And the energy it takes to move that blanket away and stand up in the cool air, well, that's the activation energy. That's the same energy it takes to go from autopilot to making a change in your life. How much freedom do you think you have? How much freedom do you feel when you're in autopilot? Now, to be fair, that can go two ways. Your life may be so wonderful, and for a lot of people it is. Your life may be so wonderful, and you really feel wrapped up and warm in your cocoon during the day that you don't want your life to change. There's nothing else you want to do, and so autopilot works. But what if you're one of those people that you really want to make a change in your life, and you don't think it'll ever happen? I have friends and family members like that. I've been there. And so it's very difficult to get that moving. It's difficult to go anywhere else but autopilot, just so everything stays in place. I'm fine. My shoulder goes up. I'm fine. It's this activation energy that tells us to wake up, to do the things that appear to be difficult and different, so we can be what we want to be, we can do what we want to do, and we can be what we came here to be. When we switch the gear, when we take control of the plane, when we turn autopilot off, we're allowing the creative process of that divine mind to come forward with ideas, inspiration, and even the simple thought of the very first step. The universe conspires to support us in all of that. It's supporting us in autopilot, and it's supporting us in change, both ways. And it does it for two reasons. One, because the universe does not take sides. It supports us in every choice we make, no matter what that is. And two, we are a physical expression of the growth and the expansion as spirit right here. It needs us, as we need to remember that's what we come from. And there's something different that happens when a choice is made for change. You become an outlet for that divine mind to express itself in a very different and greater way. Divine mind seeks to express herself and expand. It's always doing that. That's where our spiritual practices come in. Spiritual practices open the bridge and the windows to the universe for new ideas and creations to come through. You learn to feel, hear, see, and receive guidance right here, so spirit can grow through us. That's a form of freedom. To think that we're not alone and we're not doing this on our own is a form of freedom. Did you know it actually takes the same amount of energy to not grow and be stagnant as it does to grow? There's a tremendous amount of energy that's used to fight off guidance and to turn away from it. How often have you heard that voice and you went, no, and you turned away? Hindsight's great, isn't it? Yeah. But anything different or new requires a self-created opening for that activation energy to come through. And can we do it? Yes. And the reward is always freedom. When our body needs something, it signals us. When our life and our spiritual life needs something, it signals us. When we feel a loss of freedom, we get a signal. And for a lot of people, that does not feel good. But we usually don't know what to name it, so we blame it on something else in our life. We need growth, we need expansion, we love inspiration, and our spirit excels in participating in that creative process with us. Even when it's the simplest thing, even when it's just the first step. Because for some people, that's all they came here to do, and that's good. It's recommended that when you get an impulse, an idea, something that sounds good, something that clicks in your brain, do something about it within 5 seconds. Make a note, send yourself an email reminder, say something to the person that inspired you. Do something physical to keep the creative process flowing. Viktor Frankl said, "Human freedom is not freedom from, but freedom to." It's reaching to the next thing. It's the activation process. It's answering the question, what do I want? He also said striving to find meaning in one's life is the primary motivational force in man. Finding your life purpose in 5 minutes. Now, I think it's recognized that the creative process really flows when we're engaged in our life purpose, working the activation process, answering our questions for ourselves. And so I ask you, are you happy or unhappy right now? Do you feel like you're doing what you came here to do? Are you happy with what you're doing in your life? Maybe it is brain surgery. Maybe it's to save dogs and cats. Maybe it's to be a mom or a dad and to really know that love. Today I can say, yes, I'm doing what I want. And I've had many times and reasons in self-talk to doubt if I found it. My parents raised me with 3 laws. Law number 1, love won't put food on the table. We had reactive responses to love rather than proactive responses to love. Second rule, you will go to college, you will pay for it, but you will not major and have a career in anything that you think you want to do or what makes you feel good, because that's not what life's about. Rule number 3, my father was like, meh, meh, meh. God is about fear and obedience, and God could not care less if you're happy or comfortable in your relationship with him. Those were his words, because that's not what it's about. Well, I eventually found my way through the maze of childhood, came out on the other end finding love, loving myself, and that it's okay to do what I love. I had to go through a little therapy, which I'll stretch out about that long, and discovered my spiritual practice for support. Now, my childhood was my catalyst. It was my catalyst to search for my personal strength, my purpose, and to find out really who I am. I'm one of those ones who believes that we choose those things for ourselves. And it served me. It wasn't fun, but it served me. As a result of my parents' rules, I ended up changing my college major every semester. I was trying to make Dad happy, right? Because I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I was obedient when I did that. How many of us were silently obedient back in those days? Yeah. They didn't know I snuck out at night, but I was silently obedient during the day. I could fit right through that window. We'll talk about that's another story. My resume ends up looking like a phone book because I was unable to find peace or joy for myself in my jobs. I would find something that I think was it, and then I would lose all motivation. Until now. And my relationship with God or the divine mind is my relationship with me, because I know that I'm an expression, that outlet of that infinite mind. I'm an immaculate concept of God, which again, I've come to learn through my spiritual practice. So how does all this fit in again with the question, am I happy with my life, or am I just fine? Am I actively engaged in the purpose of my life? So here comes 5 questions for you. Ready? Number 1, who are you? Number 2, what do you do? And a defining question is, what do you love to do? What is the one thing right now that you feel supremely qualified to teach other people? Number 3, who do you do it for? Number 4, what do those people want or need? And number 5, how did they change as a result of it? 2 of the questions are about you. 3 of the questions would be about the other people that you would be working with, the ones you enhance, the ones you teach, the ones you give to, in order to help them change, and you feel like you've touched your purpose. It kind of goes back into the topic we had in May on servant leadership, allowing you to give of ourselves to support another's growth, which actually feeds our growth and leads us forward into an open field of freedom. Right? So those questions again, who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? What do those people want or need? How did they change as a result of it? So who are you and what you do? If you answer that, can be your elevator speech. It's always nice to have one of those. Question 5, how what I do changes the people I do it for, came up for me envisioning in meditation when I sat with these questions. I help people to know the truth of their reason for being, and through spiritual practice, a spiritual foundation, and spiritual connection, their lives can be what they choose, and they can know freedom. So I am knowing today, I am knowing for you, that something here today makes a difference in your life. That if desired, you will ask the question, what do I want? That the activation energy is alive and revving your engines, opening to inspiration. You grab it, you affirm it, you claim it, and you know it. And that you see the result of how what you do changes other people that you do it for, no matter how simple or how big. And that you feel the sense of freedom and the power to back that up that you were created from. When your vibration and your essence is freedom, the world around you feels it. You become the example of that, and you change the world. Yeah. So let's take that into prayer, and I invite the practitioners to come forward. Our practitioners are available for spiritual prayer and spiritual inspiration that they give. They're available after the service here or out in the lobby. So right now we go into that space of love. That sea of love that is everything and all things. That comes from that one point of creation. It is that one life, that one expression, that one divine mind that knows all and everything, the Alpha and the Omega, beginning and the end, the all. And it is from this point of that source of life, that center of creation, that all things come from. All things exist in that. And I know that that brings forth an energy of life, of flow, that activation, and that inspiration that touches me, that touches every single individual here, every single individual everywhere. Allowing that information to come up, to be grasped, to be taken into the expression and the life of each person as they choose it. There's no accident that each person is alive right here in this space right now. It was chosen, it was gifted, it's the grace of that divine that brings it forward, and that brings your life forward to be everything and anything you want it to be. Possibilities are endless, for that infinite mind does support you in everything that you choose, because that is itself expressing forward. How can it not give of itself in everything that comes to your mind? And I call that good and very good. I recognize that not only right here, but that inspiration of the infinite reaches out and around to this entire planet, to everything and everyone. Intuition, inspiration guides each individual and each living thing. I'm grateful for every process. I'm grateful for every human being. I'm grateful to every teacher and leader, every spiritual idea, and every religion, because it's all that information of God coming forward to every corner on the planet. And each individual knows its place and its spark of the divine and how that relates to their own personal freedom. And that is good and very good. So with absolute joy, with absolute acceptance, I say yes. I recognize how grateful I am that each person is here and chose to be here right now. And so knowing that gratitude and the grace of life, I release that into the law, knowing that it is done right here, right now. Knowing it is done within the mind and the perception of each individual here. And so claiming that as so, we bring that into the Word, and together we say, and so it is.